first accelerator in Africa called Barclays Tech Lab Africa, which became Techstars. I'm an ex-Wall Street banker from New York, and sort of fell in love with the concept of taking what works really well in Silicon Valley in the VC space and transplanting it to Africa, but modifying it for what works from an African perspective, which is understanding how distribution models work on the continent, how it's very important for founders in Africa to work with large insurers. And I'm glad that Richard's here from Microinsurers, because he can give us a great perspective on how he sort of built that market. Richard, on the side note, I read a whole chapter about you in Clayton Christensen's last book, The Prosperity Paradox.
Oh, thanks.
So yeah, I'm honored to be on the same panel as you are. Yeah, but yeah, just sort of getting back to that. So we've helped founders all over Africa build B2B2C business models. So to minimize the amount of time, energy, and resources and money that they spend on acquiring customers, which may seem very easy if you live in London or San Francisco, but it's not as easy if you live in Kampala or in Kigali or in Johannesburg. So we've helped them work with large corporates, insurers, telcos, and retailers to effectively scale, not just quicker, but to scale more efficiently with these partnerships. And we've now invested, both as an individual, as myself, as an angel, and as an accelerator, in more than 50 of Africa's top startups, including the likes of Flutterwave, Kuda Bank, Yoko Robotics, etc., several of them, and are now launching a Pan-African fund called Launch Africa to take this even further. So just very glad to be here. So thank you, Team Afrolynk.
Very impressive, and I think the experience that you have on the continent would underline that African startups are very resilient.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes or no question?
No, it's a no-brainer. You know, there's a huge amount of resilience because African founders often don't have the benefit of, you know, historically coming from huge pools of you know, family wealth or industrial wealth to help them on their track. So if you look at the average age of an African tech founder, it tends to be someone in their mid to late 30s to early 40s, right? So you've usually graduated from university, you've done your, 10 years at McKinsey or, Absa or Standard Bank or an insurance company. And once you have enough savings to take care of your family and kids, you now look at doing your own venture. So when I talk about resilience, it's necessity is the mother of innovation, not just invention. So I think African founders tend to understand resilience and sort of succeeding at all costs a lot more than their counterparts in more developed markets. And I'd absolutely agree with that statement.
Yeah, just maybe to underline one critical point, in which area would you say African startups stick out? If we want to call it resilience, or if it's just something from your experience where you say this is something that you can say maybe even for the whole continent, this is what African startups do best or makes them so strong and also competitive.
Yeah, I'd say, there are so many aspects of it, but I would say for the most part, because most African founders that I've dealt with, and I've lived in the continent for 10 years now, is they tend to be more in sync with their end customers than their counterparts overseas, all else being equal. I'm just sort of classifying and caveating every statement I make in case I get quoted out of context. But so, for example, if you run a mobile wallet in Kenya, or you do a peer-to-peer insurance platform in Lagos, or you do a logistics and last-mile delivery service for healthcare equipment in Kampala, chances are, as a founder, a member of your family or your immediate friends has had a problem like that. So, as founders, you tend to have a better understanding of what product market fit and problem solution fit actually is, versus sitting in your ivory tower with a bunch of VCs and lawyers solving
and Googling
problems. And
what
Googling,
do people need in Kigali.
So, and, well, there you go, right? So, I mean, I was a banker for many years in Wall Street, and our market research was Bloomberg, Factiva, Frost & Sullivan research reports. You don't have this in Africa, right? So I can't just go to Crunchbase or Wired or TechCrunch and say, oh, geez, what is the average purchasing power of women consumers of sanitary products in Kigali? There's no bloody way I can know that unless I actually go and do research. So where African founders have an edge,
because even
precisely.
in Rwanda there wouldn't be a database. You would need to.
No, there wouldn't. They wouldn't. So while it takes longer for founders of African tech companies to do their Series A and Series B rounds because you're busy building a business case over a long period of time, once you build that business case and you achieve product market fit, the sort of commercial returns are a lot more long lasting. So to sort of talk about it in venture terms, the lifetime value of a customer is a lot more in Africa than in the US or in Europe or in Asia. But the time it takes to acquire them tends to be longer. So if you're more resilient and can hold out for longer, the pot of gold is bigger than in a similar venture, in a more developed market. And that's the sort of message I've been trying to convey investing in startups over the last few years is persist, because the churn rate, and sorry, I'm using terms that are very VC savvy. So churn rates tend to be lower in Africa than in other developed markets. And lifetime values of customers also tend to be longer. You just have to solve for the higher customer acquisition cost. And that's where working with telcos and retailers and insurers early on is super important.
Yeah, thank you. I'll record this persist, and use it as my ringtone because working at the German African Business Association, that's what we tell our members, that's what we tell the people we work with. I think it doesn't matter if with startups or ordinary businesses on the continent.
Absolutely.
That's the motto to go by.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this, Zach. If you have to leave us, do so.
No. I've got a few minutes more, but please.
As long as you. Yes.
Yeah, I'll stick around, but please get the other panelists' opinions. I will stick around till 2:00, and I apologize for this timing mismatch. But please, the others.
No problem.
I'd love to hear from them as well.
Cool. Yes, I want to move over to somebody that is close to me because she's a woman too. Absa from the African Development Bank. Welcome. Of course, also welcome to the other gentlemen. But for now, I would like to stick with my kind of people. Absa, you are the Senior Innovation Officer, Innovation Platform Officer at the African Development Bank. And these issues that we talked about, the things that Zachariah touched already, are also part of your day-to-day work. From your point of view, what does make African startups resilient, or Africa in general?
I think actually Zachariah said it all. We are resilient.
Okay, so we can stop?
And in the way we define resilience. No, actually, the thing is that when you look in detail at what resilience means and how we as African entrepreneurs are able to absorb stress and how we adapt to a very challenging environment, then you see it happening live, right? And I did especially love what he said about invention versus innovation. Yeah. We did see a lot of inventors during the pandemic situation. While innovation goes beyond, right? It's to create value. How is it that we can alter the situation? How is it that we can use what we have, the resources already available, and make something amazing out of it that could respond to a specific challenge? And I love it when we say, with this Afrolynk meetup, innovate, connect, and accelerate, because it's all about innovating, accelerating, and connecting. Take an example of, how adaptive these people have been in starting to manufacture masks, how they were in challenges in universities, starting at a very early stage to think of the next big thing they would create to respond to a challenge they were facing in their community.
Yeah, and
so
it's inspiring.
Innovation, it is. And it's amazing to see how governments were able to just understand that it was the right moment. Now, when it comes to momentum, it's also interesting to see how we would capture this, right? Because when we invent and when we innovate and when we find a solution to a specific problem, we need to make it sustainable. And that's how we would, as a business, be able to be profitable. The second point I wanted to make, especially is in the way of being able to adapt, to be agile. I really like the example of Mrs. Dorothy explaining that it shouldn't work the same way as it was before, because definitely things did change. And cultivating multiple enterprise revenue sources is important for a business. It is important that we start looking at the future value of the cash flow. How is it that we can implement ideas that could respond to a market versus I have my own clients, I know what they want, and I'm going to produce what I used to produce. And then the last thing is that in our, process of the transformative process of being agile as entrepreneurs, and I'm considering myself as one of the entrepreneurs, is to cultivate that need for sharing. Let's not reinvent the wheel. We are in a period where we might not have the right resources, should there be financial or technical. Let's join forces and let's make the Ubuntu spirit really live so that they can learn from each other. Instead of losing my time doing something which was done already somewhere else, let me build on what is already available, join forces, and support each other.
Would you say that is one of the next steps? Because there's a lot of movement all over the African continent in the startup scene. There's Absolutely. A lot of things that have been tried out. A lot of stable businesses grew out of it, a lot of innovative ideas. But now would also be more about gathering the resources, also coming together, seeing how to complement each other.
Exactly. And that is part of the job we're doing, and I'll talk about it later, I guess. But, when you get to a position where you see what is happening in several countries, it gives you an idea of how you might be supporting few of the ventures already there. Someone mentioned this morning, Afrolynk, obviously, but AfriLabs and other networks going on already. If we are able to support them in their efforts of building a network, of taking a repository of the amazing ideas developed across the continent, we are then able, even as a DFI or as a venture capitalist, to identify where am I putting my investment. Yeah. And in that sense, some people might tell you, I need money. But some others would tell you at this stage, I need a mentor. I need someone to guide me in knowing exactly where I'm putting my eggs. I need to understand at which stage I need to reach out to a venture capitalist or to an external partner, at which stage I need to develop the capabilities of my team, and that is important. We see a lot of ventures where the leader is amazing. He has amazing skills. But then the team members need some skills and capacity building initiatives to help them leapfrog and understand the game and the market. Yeah. And in that sense, yes, I do agree. The next step would be to support each and every one of these initiatives, but depending on their current needs and the market to address.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Absa. I'll come back to you later, but I would like to move on to the startup on our panel today. Ricky, welcome. I hope you can hear me. I can see and hear you well, or say something to me, please.
I hope I can also hear you. Good to be here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you well.
Is my lighting okay? There are a lot of complications here now.
You look perfect in your orange and the white background.
That's a wall.
Ricky, we talked a lot about startups, their resilience, and how also ideas grow on the African continent. You are one of these ideas that grew and became something very great. tell us a little bit about what you do, how you came up with the idea, and how resilience plays into that.
Thank you. My name is Rapa Thomson for the viewers. I'm happy to be here. A little bit about what we do at SafeBoda. Basically, from the very onset, from the beginning of SafeBoda, I think from the time of inception around June 2014, we've really been focusing on the lives of the people already in the border industry. So basically what we do, still this is the entry point for anyone who has already been in the industry to join us, is we recruit, we train, we give the borderman the knowledge that he requires to be able to offer the best service basically in Africa, because historically there's been no formal school, no formal training for anyone to become a motorcycle taxi rider. The training covers a lot of areas, from road safety to customer service training. Now we have gone as far as training them in language, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. These are some of the things that we're actually missing. So when we recruit, we train them and also connect them to customers using the platform. This was originally what we were doing only, but as of today, of course, the platform has really grown. Maybe just to give an idea, to give some context to it, that when we started operation around 2015, by the end of 2015, we were able to recruit 150 drivers. We call them drivers. Some people will call them riders, but maybe for this, we can call them SafeBoders. We're able to recruit 150 of them. And by the end of 2016, with the number of support that we received, we were able to hit 1,000. And then by the end of 2017, we were able to hit 3,300 SafeBoders. As I speak today, we have a little bit over 18,000 SafeBoders in Kampala. We have also...
Wow, you move fast.
I think we were not very fast. I think other companies or other organizations recruit much larger than that.
But with all the things that you named that you did from scratch, I think that's fast.
Thank you. So as I speak today, SafeBoda has been able to expand to Nairobi, Kenya. We also have operation in Ibadan, West Africa. So it's been a very interesting journey. Something that I really want to share with you about the topic resilient is really like the fact that for us, or for myself, I was in the industry and we understood very well. And I understood, and with the help of my team, which were comprising of a lot of ex-border riders, we had a very good understanding of what was best for the industry. And in that way, in collaboration, making sure that for us, we also build what is best for the industry, but also build the best product that customers need. And in consultation with both parties, because right now we're in a situation where we have two groups of customers. So you have like the riders, so you need to make sure you build a platform and a product that is best for your riders, but you also have customers that you actually serve every day. So you also want to make sure that you build a product that is best for them. So in close collaboration and consultation and receiving a lot of feedback, we were able to build today one of the best ride-hailing apps for motorcycle taxi ride in Africa. So it's been today our app not only allows people to connect with riders, but you can take a ride, you can take food, you can order for a meal directly from our platform, you can order for fresh products from the market. I'm talking about things like tomatoes, things like carrots. These are things that today you can now order directly from our platform, and also our platform allows you to make payments. So today, yes, SafeBoda deals in ride, food, delivery, and payments as well.
Yeah, so you expanded your area of business with the qualities that you already had.
Yes.
My question would be, building up a business, building up a startup, how much would you think of environment changing? Maybe even, I know this is an issue in many countries, the government saying these motorcycles are not allowed anymore. Would you think about things like that in the forefront, or is this resilience that comes natural and you just adapt as you go and you don't think about it in advance?
To be honest, you, as a startup in Africa, you worry about some of those issues, and you will not ignore them. But also the reality on the ground is that there is no quick replacement to one of the second biggest employers, especially in Uganda. Right now, when you look at the statistics of employment, you get to realize that over 30% of actually over 38% of young people are unemployed. You have close to around 600,000 young people, a little bit over 400,000 young people coming out of universities every day. If you look at also the employment sectors, you get to realize that agriculture is the largest employer of young people in Uganda. And the second biggest employer of young people in Uganda is actually the border transport industry. So really, and transport, especially the border sector, actually transport, especially the border sector account for like close to 10 to 15% of the GDP. So you get to realize that, of course, you worry about them, but also the reality is there is no that quick fix for the current situation. Because, of course, we've been having discussion. The ministry, the Kampala City Council Authority, a couple of months ago during the lockdown said they want to implement what they call the border free zone. That means the entire CBD, which accounts for 40% of our business, will not be accessed by the border riders. But then one question that comes is, what is the option? What is it that, how are you going to replace the borders? Where are they going to go? So, of course, as a startup in Africa, you worry about these things. You worry about regulation. We worry about politics in the industry. But we try as much as we can to make sure we do what is right. Because government is more interested in a solution that is more long-lasting, that creates impact, than just storytelling. So at the end of the day, they think about how best to control the city, how best to reduce traffic and stuff like that, but also employment and the economy is also at stake. So yes, we worry about it, but we work closely with them, we consult them, and make sure that any other change that they are just about to make is in the best interest, one, of young people, because Uganda, where I come from, 78% of them are actually young people. So we're a very sensitive group of people today. So anything, you need to make sure it's in the best interest of the people. And also employment is a disaster. So anything that takes away employment from young people could easily be taken as unfair, as disabling. So yes, we worry about them, but we try as much as we can to continue doing the right thing.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ricky. I wish you the best of luck, and I'm very, I know I will hear of you again and maybe drive with one of your drivers one day, wherever I am. Earlier, Dorothy Gordon said,
come to Kampala.
If you have the I'll come to Kampala. I love Kampala. If you have the courage to be a startup in Africa, you have to be able to adapt to circumstances. I think that gets to the point of what we're discussing here. And we lost Absa, but I want to get to Richard now. All of us spoke. We had a lot of great inputs, and I don't even want to direct a question, but just ask you, what's on your mind after all of us said something?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, for me, I think the question originally was around resilience. And what makes Africa resilient. And I think it's been interesting to hear everyone talking, but, you know, I think what I've noticed about, as I've moved around Africa, is just how little protection there is for people who face risk every day. You know, the average person in Africa really doesn't have a safety net, you know, and so all of the products, all the services that the other panelists are doing, I think, are fantastic and help people. I mean, certainly, you know, what Ricky's doing is fantastic in terms of providing kind of safe transport for people. It's certainly an area that people are worried about. You know, how do I safely go from where I am to where I want to be? But my experience, you know, people face immense risk in every area of their life, you know, and providing a safety net that really moves up underneath people is essential if we're going to move Africa and Africans out of the current status that they're, you know, the kind of place there it's at. if we don't provide that safety net, then every time something bad happens, the whole continent just slips further and further backwards into poverty. And so providing this safety net, providing something which, when bad things happen, stops people from spending their money in unproductive ways, but instead shifts that over to the private sector, is going to be really essential, in helping Africa accelerate its path out of poverty.
Yeah. Is that one of your inspirations, to give a safety net?
Yeah, actually, that's why. I mean, 20 years ago when I started what was Microinsure then, and is today called the Microinsurance Company. It actually started with a conversation with a lady in Zambia this was the height of the HIV epidemic, and I was living with her in the community, and I was fascinated by what had happened, because she'd started off in the village. She'd ended up as a school teacher with her husband, who was a security guard in the capital city in Lusaka, and here she was back in the village with virtually nothing. And I was really surprised by that. In my rather kind of simplistic, I didn't really understand how things happened in some of these countries. And she actually went and got a snakes and ladders board, like a child's game of snakes and ladders, and said, look, this is like my life. I'm trying to work my way out of poverty. I'm trying to give my children schooling and a good education and a future. But every time something bad happens, I slip down to the bottom of the board. And for her, of course, it was the HIV pandemic. Her husband had got sick. They'd spent all their money on drugs and on all sorts of kind of, some of them were good, some of them weren't good, medical interventions. And then, of course, the funeral is a very big thing in Zambian society. And so here she was, having spent everything back in the village. And there hadn't been that safety net. When disaster struck, she had slipped back into poverty.
Yeah. So you think maybe the partly horrible conditions that Africans and dare say African people on the whole continent live under, that's what makes them resilient, or that's...
No, I think the job of companies like Microinsure is to provide that safety net so that people don't have to experience that and don't have to keep slipping back into poverty. So, that 20 years ago was the experience that said to me, okay, insurance is not a product that people wake up wanting to buy. None of us woke up this morning wanting to buy insurance. And in Africa, definitely that's the case. 97% of people don't still today have insurance. And so, I set about trying to create products that were incredibly simple, customer journeys that were digital and didn't have friction. And we've managed to sign up nearly 70 million customers across Africa and Asia over the last 20 years. So we've made some big steps on this, but there's 4 billion people that don't have insurance worldwide, and many of those are in Africa.
Do you see it? Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you just now. Do you see a change in now? There's more interference, there's more interaction between the continents, between the worlds, also through the internet, through more exposure. Do you see a change in, okay, we want a safety net and certain things get more important, and also the role of the private sector and businesses is being shifted?
Yeah, I think there's certainly there's a move. I think what the big change is that we've understood how to remove friction from the customer journey. So, when it's difficult to sign up, traditional insurance products, they're difficult to sign up for, they're difficult to pay for. Everything is difficult about insurance. And so if we make it extremely easy, if we make it as easy as buying a ringtone and paying for a ringtone, so you can sign up by sending a single text message and you can pay through airtime deduction on your mobile phone, then many, many more people will sign up for these kinds of products. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah, so you say there the innovation part and the digitalization process is helping in order to reach people.
Yeah, definitely. And so for us, what we've been able to do is to leverage the brands that people trust. So what we found in Africa is that people trust their mobile phone company. And they trust their mobile phone company because they interact with the mobile phone very regularly. They top up their phone, they buy airtime, they have many interactions with the mobile phone company, and when they buy something, it works. And so when that brand, when MTN or Vodafone or Tigo or whoever the brand is that they buy airtime from, when that brand says, hey, if you get sick, if you die, if something bad happens, that we will will help you, will support you, then they believe that it will actually happen, that will take place. And so what we've been doing as MicroInsure is we've been partnering up with these digital brands that people trust and leveraging that trust in order to reach out to tens of millions of people.
Yeah. So I think here in Europe, innovation always comes with a digital aspect to it. And now we spoke about there's also a digital aspect, but sometimes it's also just connecting the points, what makes maybe the idea or the business model innovative. Would you support that?
So I don't think that digitization by itself is innovation. And I think this is the mistake that lots of people make. So, if you take a product and just make it digital, it won't work. So, I said earlier that no one wakes up wanting to buy insurance. And one of the big mistakes we made.
Some people might.
No, they don't. Believe me, they really don't. I don't think there's anyone here. There's 68 people on this call. I don't think any single one of them ever woke up this morning and thought, I can't wait. I'm going to buy insurance today. Never happens. What we find is that the big mistakes are that people take products that people don't want and make them digital and imagine that they're going to want them. That doesn't work. Digitization is just really a way of removing friction from the customer journey. You still have to make the product something that people want to buy.
Let's start a discussion. I think Absa sadly is still not back, but Ricky is also still here. So my question would go to both of you. Again, does resilience lead to profit? So is just because I have a business that I can adapt to situations quickly, does that make my business more profitable?
Ricky?
Richard, that would have been your best question, because you've been fighting with people on waking up in the morning and being able to buy insurance. I think it's a combination of both. I really would say that to a certain extent, yes, resilient would play a great role in leading, in making a business lead to profitability to a certain extent. But I really would want to say that product fit, making sure that the product that we build is in the best interest of the people and people appreciate it and people relate with it, is much more important just than only think about resilience. It's a combination of the different factors that really is required for a product that is for the people and by the people, the product that is inclusive, for a product that actually creates change and improve and has a direct effect on people's life. I think that's how I would look at it. I wouldn't really only look at one word. I think it's a combination of every other thing, because what will happen today, because there's also the question of sustainability. There's also a question of a product being able to stand the test of time. There are a number of alterations that has to be done. So I think it's a combination of both. It's a combination of really being able to answer the need for the customers. Richard was here saying that people don't wake up in the morning wanting to buy insurance. I was asking myself, is there any day that I woke up in the morning and I want to buy insurance, or I always want to buy insurance because police is going to arrest me because I'm riding my border and it doesn't have the third-party insurance and stuff like that. And also, like, one thing that Richard was saying was that there are a lot of people in Africa that really don't have access to insurance. But also there's a lot of questions going on, especially in Uganda, about insurance. We know it is a necessity. We know it's something that people really need, because backsliding from wherever you are back into poverty is not the best thing. But the question is, are people ready to buy the insurance? Because micro insurance could be like the starting phase, making sure that people really relate and understand, and providing the regulatory environment, because that there are questions of safetyness of people, right? Even when you talk about digitalization of product, is it that when you make an app, you're really going to make money? Because these are some of the topics that I actually get to have with young people. They come to me and say, Ricky, I want to build an app, and I build an app, I'm sure it's going to be the biggest app, even bigger than SafeBoda. And I'm like, yeah, but do you think it's only about the app? When you build the app,
but
you think
Yeah, that's what Richard was saying, the misconception.
Yeah, because I don't know.
Not only in Europe, it's also in Africa, yes.
Yeah, but I don't know who sells to them that when they build the app, they're really going to become successful, especially in a market like Kampala, where smartphone penetration is, or in Uganda, where smartphone penetration is like what, at 30%? Maybe in Kampala it's a little bit more, maybe it's 40, maybe it's 50% or 60%. A lot of people, a lot of consumers do not even have access to smartphone. They're still using like the button phone. And someone really comes to you telling you that if I really build an app today, I'm going to become successful. You know, I take them back to the story of like SafeBoda, that the idea was born at around June 2014. We started operation official around Feb 2015, but we started having an app that works like in 2017. It doesn't mean we have never been having an app, but we've been learning and we've been making mistakes of which and how to build a product that is best for the people.
Yeah, but Richard, also to you, the same question. Resilience and profit, how are they linked? Are they linked at all? Enlighten us.
Yeah, they have to be, of course. You know, I think about our business going through COVID-19. I mean, it's been really interesting. A lot of businesses, you know, have really struggled. We actually saw it the other way. You know, guess what? It became easier to sell insurance to people because they were terrified of the health risk and going to hospital and the cost of hospitalization. But then also they were worried about, you know, the potential of, well, how do I cover my funeral if the worst thing does happen? So, you know, we have call center agents. We saw a 40% increase in productivity of each call center agent. We also use digital. So we use kind of SMS blasts. We saw an 800% increase in self-registration, digital self-registration from those SMS blasts. And then we also have robocalls, which I think is about 400% increase in productivity. But having said that, what we did see was about a 30% reduction in the ability to actually collect money from people. So we collect money from airtime deduction and from their mobile wallets. And so as people moved into lockdown, they had less and less money because they weren't working. You know, most of our clients are self-employed, you know, and so they weren't able to pay the premium even if they wanted to. So, you know, it's been interesting how we've had to respond to this through this kind of very difficult period, which we've never kind of seen before. So it's great that we're selling more insurance. It's difficult that we're not being able to collect premium from as many people as we want. And so we've had to kind of find new ways of going about doing our business, new ways of, you know, allowing people to pay in different ways. And with different frequencies. So, yeah, being able to be resilient and which then leads to profitability, absolutely. But I would also argue that, you know, at the heart of what we do at Microinsure is providing people with resilience. Okay, so we're providing them with a safety net. You know, we're ensuring them for their health needs. We're ensuring them for life. I mean, Ricky, what I meant by, you know, like, no one wakes up wanting to buy insurance, I think is true. If you stand on the street corner in Kampala and say, hey, I'm selling life insurance, no one will come near you. In fact, people will run away from you. But if you stand on the street corner and you say, hey, if something happens, your kid will finish school, there'll be a queue, right? There'll be a queue of people saying, yeah, I want to buy that product. If something happens to me and I can't work, I want my child to finish school. And so this cuts to the heart of this question about resilience. It's about how you position some products. It's true that no one wants to buy insurance, but it's also true that people want their children to finish school. So it's about how you position these products, how you position these safety nets, and whether they're relevant to people.
Yeah. Let me give you, we have 5 minutes left. How do you think the international community, startups, corporates, small businesses, everybody could somehow push this African resilience that we've been speaking of for the past hour into more productivity? How could we use it even to produce more entrepreneurial spirit, not spinach, and make something great out of it, or even greater?
Ricky,
let's start with you, and let's have Richard the last word as the seniority on the table today.
Repeat the question again. Sorry.
But how could we, as the international community, as startups, as investors, whoever, make use of this African resilience? How could we push it even more into the right direction and make more come out of it?
I think it's clear there's a lot that has actually changed already, because historically, when we're dealing with the international community, used to be like we're dealing with experts. I'm sorry to use these words, but it's also fair to use this kind of words that whenever we would have international communities come to Kampala, come to Uganda, it definitely will come from like an expert point of view. And a lot of issues that actually came with that was really like the thinking that these people know all our problems, knows all our challenges, and possibly have the solution to some of these challenges that possibly we are going through, or some of these issues. And over time, that has actually changed a lot, that we're now looking at ourselves as people with the information, people who has the understanding of our challenges and our problems that we are going through. And then the best thing that could actually happen, which I see it's really happening a lot, is really like that close collaboration and partnership that really is from the bottom to the top, not from the top to the bottom, where the international communities comes on the ground and really like works with the local people to give context to possibly, because also when you come to like Uganda, we have communities, we have cultures, and we have beliefs as well. So some of these things, and we have challenges that we go through every day. And I think a lot of us could help put this into context. And I've seen a lot of collaboration and relationship. And I think this is what we should be looking forward to, because there's also been a lot of questions on ownership on some of this initiative. And you will get to realize that a lot of countries, a lot of young people from different parts of the world, a lot of startups are starting to wake up. A lot of customers are starting to be more interested in something local than something that is just you start to use this kind of word, maybe imported. So a lot of people are really trying to see to it that whatever they are consuming is from within them. And I think that interest has always been there. But then it has not been paid close attention because of questions of quality and security and stuff like that. So I really think that the international
self-awareness and collaboration.
Correct.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't disagree with what Ricky said around kind of like international being seen as experts in the past, and I think that's very wrong. And I totally agree with him that actually these homegrown, African-led innovations are really the future. In fact, I'm really excited because, I'm a white guy and I live in England, but my business over the last 20 years has been actually, grown out of Africa. Started in Zambia, it's grown across Africa. And actually in the last year, we've actually taken what we learned in Africa and we're starting to implement it in the United States. So, this kind of very radical simplification of product, this very radical digitization of the customer journey. And we're actually taking those lessons and we're deploying them in the US. So we launched a product, for example, with one of these doorbell companies, right? So when you push the doorbell, the video comes on and, people leave packages. So the courier comes and leaves the package in the doorway. And if the package is then stolen, then the package is insured. Right, and these are lessons that we learned in Africa. These are things that we learned how to do in Africa, providing insurance for a very small sum for very short periods of time. And we've taken those things and we said, yeah, but they're also relevant in a country like the US. And so we've taken microinsurance to the US and to these markets. And I'm really excited. I think there's a lot of innovation that's happening in Africa, which is miles ahead, in terms of its thinking compared to so-called developed countries. And I really challenge guys like Ricky to see how he can take the learnings he has and go global with them, not just in Africa, but actually to other countries as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Richard, because that's something I always preach in my work too. And thank you for underlining what actually the rest of the world can learn from the African continent, from the people there, because how you pointed out, the ideas that are being developed come from the people, come from experiences. and all of us can learn something out of that. And going global is what Afrolynk did this year too. We've stayed in Berlin so far, and on the continent now we're global. And I thank you very much for giving me this input, for sharing your insights and experiences. I hope to see you in Kampala and London, or in Lusaka, who knows. And yes, Africa is resilient and innovation plays a role in it. Thank you.